Have you ever wondered about these things? What works? What do we know? How do we learn mathematics? What's the problem? What's the problem with teaching and learning of mathematics? Why are we not there yet? I wonder. Like, we've been trying to understand why learning math is so difficult for students. Why are they not doing well in math? And the question is, what do we know? So I want to bring your attention to this last item there. Like, what does the literature suggest? What the research says about how do we learn mathematics, how our students learn mathematics. But I'm going to put some quotes here, and I'm going to ask you to read them on your own and tell me if you see an overarching theme, okay? So here is what you will do. Take a look at those 4 quotes and tell me, what do you notice? So these quotes span over 80 years, beginning in 1929 and then to 2007. We can find quotes in the literature about the last 80 years of research on how do we learn mathematics are suggesting to something very strong. What do you guys think about that? What does it suggest to you? Is there any overarching theme about what these quotes suggest? These are taken from research, from many papers in research.
There's going to be a struggle to apply the struggle that you need to allow that.
That's it. That's pretty much what the research tells us. It tells us that learning mathematics requires some productive struggle. That's pretty much what it is. There is a struggle in understanding mathematics that is inescapable, and we have to learn how to facilitate and how to help support students when they're engaged with that. That's pretty much what we know. There's procedure knowledge, which is very important. Students need to know that procedure, and there is understanding that procedure. Understanding that procedure requires some level of productive struggle, because understanding, making sense, and learning are the most difficult things that the human brain will ever do. So, with that in mind, we wonder about, I know you know NCSM and NCTM have papers. They do position papers, and I think that's wonderful. And here's 4 positions that I wanted you to share with you. The first one is that in order to learn mathematics, they claim, what we have is a place where we value the process, not necessarily the right answer. You know how teachers often, when they teach mathematics, they value a lot. We have come to value a lot getting students to the right answer. NCSM and NCTM has put forward an idea that no, it's not getting to the right answer should be a byproduct of understanding the process, of understanding that that's the process. They say that in order to be successful in learning and teaching of mathematics, they have to be discourse, not just as a tool for communicating, but as a tool for thinking. Because with language is how we make sense and how we understand. And having to be able to tell somebody else how we're making sense and somebody else telling us, I'm sorry, what are you saying? In that give and take is understanding, right? That kind of discourse is saying, when I have to verbalize what I understand to someone else, there's a different level of understanding. Even if I have to verbalize what that I do not understand, there's a level of understanding. And then finally, engage in high cognitive demands. Engage in mathematical tasks of high cognitive demands. And if you don't have these items, you have a problem of equity. Because there are the students who are getting all these things. And to put it all together, this is the state. This is what it takes to learn mathematics. When we put all this research that you see down here, going down here together, this is what it takes to learn mathematics. Access to cognitive demanding tasks, meaning quality curriculum, opportunities to make sense, and to struggle with productivity with complexity of mathematics, making connection to bigger ideas, engaging rich discourse, and to do all of that in an environment where I am not made feel less than because I'm making mistakes in my thinking, right? Do it in a safe environment where learning is okay, appreciated. And if I say something that perhaps is not right, no one is going to make me feel bad for it. That's what learning So if we know all this, why? Why are we still not there? And it's this. This is the problem. The reason we're not there is because teachers are very good at facilitating learning that has to do with procedural knowledge. But when it comes to conceptual understanding and engaging in productive struggle, students, they try. And students often begin working on that. But they often hit some sort of they hit a wall. And guess what students do when they find a barrier in the productive struggle that they don't know what to do? They disengage. And when they disengage, what does teacher do? They take over. They do what teachers do best, take over. And at that moment, math becomes about, don't worry, I'm going to walk you through the math, and you don't have to think, I'm going to just walk you through the math. Teachers take over. And with good reasons, right? I mean, they're pressured too. At the first side of this engagement, they take over. So the question is, taking over is a solution that teachers always have available to them. Why not learn to push that later in the class? Right? So that's the question. How do we support this? And we support that with professional learning. And professional learning is serious, where we have all the elements present. Let me just talk to you about that. This is a professional learning that I think creating a community of learning for teachers. A community that is vertical, right? A community at your districts where a group of teachers come together from multiple schools and with administration, and they form a community of learning. Here you have a model where the process goes like that. And this could last a whole year, a semester, multiple months around time, online and in person, both. Pretty much the community of teachers that includes vertical. Teachers, principal, administrators at the district level, everyone is connected into a shared goal, shared commitment to a shared goal. And together identify a problem of practice. What's the problem of practice that we want to tackle? We go into studying the solutions. What is the basic research practice are? And then actually go and plan the lesson together. And then go teach it together. And then this over here is the professional learning. The professional learning that happens with a larger group. From this group, we take one or two teachers who volunteer to open the classroom as a laboratory where we can go and see these practices in action. And then go and teach them together and film this as much as possible. To go back then to see how we deal with the problem of practice. Going back here, bring down this to the larger group, where the larger group now is the rest of the community, and say to them something like that. Hey, the problem of practice we discussed, it turns out that what we discussed here, we tried it, we planned it together, and we tried it in the classroom. Here's what we did, you tell us what we did. And now you turn the entire community, you elevate them from just being a professional learning, being involved in professional learning, now they become a think tank. Everyone is part of the think tank. Here's the problem we identified, here's the solutions we're trying to implement, we try them, we bring them back to you, you tell us how we did. And then you do it again, and again, and again. If you go to our blogs and our web page, which is over here, proficiency.org, this blog over here in the top left explains that process completely, from beginning to end. That's what that one is. When we did it with the New York schools, we identified these three levers, these three broad categories as categories that can support students. Appropriate scaffold, supporting the academic language and mathematics, and leveraging data, formative assessment in particular. And the question is, you know that these areas are so broad, and each of them can have so much. There's so much professional learning to work around this, to find solutions to the problems, or how to keep students engaged. Providing appropriate scaffold is one of them. support the language, and engage in formative assessment. But let's talk about scaffolding. Yeah, okay. Now, scaffolding is one thing that if you ask 100 teachers what is a scaffolding, you have 100 different definitions, okay? Everybody has a different idea what a scaffold is, and that's okay. But in the process of supporting the productive struggle, scaffolding, we abide to this definition from Wood, Brunner, and Ross, a traditional definition, and which is something like this. You know, it's based on the son of proximal development. We all know this, right? There are things that I can do on my own. I don't need anyone to help me. There are things that I cannot do, no matter who can help me, because they're beyond my perfect skill, my perfect development. In between those two spaces, there's a cognitive space that is the zone of proximal development. And it is there that scaffolding works. And it is there that the productive struggle happens. So how do we support here in this cognitive area called the zone of proximal development is what we call it appropriate. And the answer, when it comes to teaching and learning mathematics, when it comes to teaching for understanding, is don't do the thinking for the students. Whenever I do, whatever, if you're struggling with the math that I set up for the lesson today, whenever I do, whatever it is that I'm calling support, it cannot, after I do that, it can't be that I'm the one thinking and the students stop thinking. It has to be so that I leave the thinking always. They need support, but that support has to be in the way in which it does not take their thinking away. We do the research in New York, we came up with this and broad scaffolding strategies. I'm sure you have heard of them. Bridging, market regulating, and structure. Bridging refers to any action, any action the teacher takes that bridges prior knowledge to new knowledge, connecting those things to new ideas. Marking means that not everything is equally important in the lesson, and not everything is equally fundamental. So bringing attention to those things that are fundamental, key parts of the puzzle, of the lesson, of the day, or the unit, is marking. Regulating, that's just what teachers do. Regulate behavior, regulate motivation, and engagement. Well, we do that cognitively too. We create activities where they're engaged in a safe area. We don't want them to go wandering too much in one way or another. It's a cognitive structure. And those are the kind of scaffolds, those are the growth strategies that we use that work best for teaching and learning and supporting students while they're engaging in productive struggle. Now, when it comes to metalinguistic vocabulary, are you familiar with Uselli and Galloway and the work they did? Uselli and Galloway identified 7 areas of academic language. And it's huge research, it's fantastic. You can just Google Uselli Galloway 2017 and you'll find tons of papers on that. And all of those parts are relevant to learning mathematics. But in the past work that we did, we focused our attention to understanding metalinguistic vocabulary. Now, metalinguistic vocabulary is that vocabulary that facilitates, that activates some cognitive activity. What we learned is that math teachers are very good about teaching the vocabulary of the discipline specific. No one leaves the math classroom not knowing what a triangle is, what a hypotenuse is, or an asymptote is. That kind of vocabulary that has to do with a specific discipline, math teachers are very good at teaching. It is the vocabulary that facilitates the metalinguistic vocabulary, facilitates cognition, the one that is often neglected. Like extrapolating.
Remember, this happens with every math problem that students have to face. When you show them an equation, does it make sense? Can they relate it to something they've seen before? Can they name it? Do they know what kind of equation is that? And the reason why this is important is because depending on where the students are, is where we have to build the support for them, right? So we have to build support for them in one of those places, depending on what the problem is happening. Remember, going back to the son of proximal development. That's the only reason why that's important. Because we understand that, and we analyze the metalinguistic vocabulary. we are in a better position to know what we should have to be doing to support them. The moment they hit a barrier and begin to disengage. We prepare support specifically for that. And then formative assessment. There's a lot of different assessments. There's summative, screener, purpose monitor, state exam. We all have to deal with state exams and formative assessment. For this group of schools that we're working, we decided to engage in formative assessment because it's the one that it has more insights into instruction, day-to-day instruction. Now, as it turns out, one of the biggest problems with assessment is that every assessment has a different purpose, right? Assessment has purpose. And we often use one assessment for a purpose it was not intended.
All right, how are we doing?
Can I give you, for example?
Now you had the whole problem on the left, and then on the right, you have the problem sentence by sentence, and what is the one of these sentences are telling us about the quantity and the relationship between quantities. That's all that matters here. How do you guys do? Okay? All right, so let's just go over the first one. A dining hall has a total of 25 tables. What can we infer from that? That the total number of tables is equal to 25, and the only part of the tables are equal to 25. That a total table, right, can have a table equal to 25. I want to ask you this, and I'm very serious about that. How do we teach a kid student for the fiction? Let's infer. How do we learn how to infer? We think together. The good thing is that our brain was born to do this, was designed to do this, but the way no one can teach us this by telling us how to do it. We learn how to do this by being in situations where we have to draw inferences and then getting feedback from others. You know, like take this in for example. You look outside the window, everything is wet. Instantly, you know that it was raining. You did not see rain fall, but you know it was raining. You infer that. Now, a little kid comes over and look, and he draws a different inference. He said, oh, someone was with a hose getting things wet. You as an adult know that it's the wrong inference. And immediately you provide feedback. And you said, no, I think actually it was raining. Why? And then you can say things like, well, because when you look at the very far away distance, it's still wet, and the hose wouldn't reach down there. That kid, in that moment, is learning how to infer. It's getting feedback. Oh. And we do that hundreds of times every day about every aspect of life. It's just that in mathematics, we're drawing inference about things that are more abstract, about quantities, and the relationship about quantities. Now, what I'm saying is that when kids are doing things like this, when they stall, when they find a barrier that they don't know how to overcome, the problem is that it's hard, very difficult to support them in a way that we don't lift the thinking from them, that we don't take the thinking from them. The way to do that is to offer a perspective, a shading perspective. Another way to think about it. If I can remember, then maybe I can choose. If I cannot infer, maybe I can describe. If I can explain, maybe I can select. Take one cognitive activity and offer a perspective, another window of entry, another point of entry that does not take the thinking away, but all the way around provides more thinking. Gives them other way to think. Do it in Spanish does not help. Guess why? Because if you don't know how to infer in English, you don't know how to infer in Spanish. This is not a matter of language is very important. And offering them the class in Spanish helped tremendously. It allowed them to focus on the inference. Because the language is not a problem, it's their language, but they still have trouble inferring in Spanish. So if they infer in Spanish, that translates to English instantly. You learn English just like that, because if you don't have to infer in Spanish, that is a skill you can teach English. Anyway, yes? Sir?
Yeah, I think this is a problem I see with my teachers. You know, that I see the problem in practice when you got to address. really providing those scaffolds and still keeping the rigor as well.
And
So
that is
that's
so
one,
important.
that's one thing that I'm saying that my teachers are saying that, you know, they feel it's a challenge because they feel like they start scaffolding, so much scaffolding that they have to do because the, you know, the kids.
So, my name is Miguel, so let me tell you why what you said is so important. Because, first of all, students need support. They need it. They can't do it, so often they can't do it alone, and you have to support them. But how do we support without liberating the rigor? And that's difficult. And we agree that appropriate, when it comes to the productive struggle, is something that whatever you do that you call it scaffolding, kids still think. You know what I mean? Not you. And getting into that, teachers need to be someone to hold their hands and to do it a couple of times with someone, and then they need to record that and bring it to everybody else, other teachers, and let other teachers open up to other teachers and say, like, what do you think? We tried to do it, we do it. If you don't think we did it, what are you thinking of? And you elevate, now instead of having just a professional learning, you elevate everybody to a think tank. And that's the model that we're trying to bring on. I'm going to do my blog. And this is directly to my blog. I have blogs here about every one of these topics.
Thank you, sir.